this is where I sound like I'm just going to be annoyed, because now we're going to talk about Squighog Boyz and squig mounted characters. Oof, what can I say that's not gray and lame about these guys, right? Some of it is just looking back on the past on what we were and what we could be, but that's kind of the problem here, because people still see this unit in the same light, and I think GW does it too. So let's just say right now, this is not the same unit as it was in Index Hammer. Whether we were talking about the squig mounted characters or the Squighog Boyz themselves, they are not the same thing as they were. And anyone that doesn't understand it at this point does not understand Orks. And that is GW is one of those people. I'm going to say it, because 150 points for this unit that is objectively bad in the current meta that they are supposed to be designed for, right? These are monster slash vehicle hunters specific units. And in a meta that is a bunch of vehicles and monsters, whether they baby knights, they're little blight haulers, demons, elite infantry, knights, big demons, these guys don't do their job. They're not brought on almost virtually any list for that reliability on outcome. They cannot perform the task, and they are really bad when they whiff because they cost so dang much. So these units are objectively bad in a meta that they should be standing out in if GW even felt like 150 points was decent for them, but they're not. And that goes for my first point, is because GW sees them as they did in Index Hammer. And anyone else who thinks that they need to stay anywhere near 150 points also falls into that boat. So these guys are quote unquote monster vehicle hunters that can't do it. Now, other things that we're paying for, not only from the fact that we're not indexed. What I mean by we're not indexed is we don't have the +1 to hit from the actual squig that you, now that the knob squig is now used to be a character. Shout out to guys who knew that. The index hammer, the actual knob squig used to be a character. You until you only get +1 to hit. Now you have the same unit that doesn't have +1 to hit in a far more potent meta with armies that have way more counters to their profiles, yet these units also pay for a pivot. So now my Squighog Boyz lost the movement because they paid for a pivot. So they lost +1 to hit. They lost a pivot. So their mounts, right? Keep in mind, they're mounted on 4s. So if I'm going into something that's -1, okay, I'm hitting on 5s, and they're only strength 6 going to 7. So they're not wounding vehicles well. So not sure what those guys are doing, but hey, they're in there. Then you go, well, I have bomb squigs, but you have counterintuitive bomb squigs, because one, if you were out of line of sight and I could kind of position my squigs to participate in screen clearing by throwing bomb squigs over a wall, you know, in this case, if I advance out from my stage position where I finally didn't get shot, even though I'm probably getting shot everywhere because my huge unit size, I can't even use my bomb squig. So now we have counterintuitive bomb squigs. We have a pivot rule that we pay for. We don't have a -1 to hit that we're essentially still paying for in point costs. How did this unit only go down in 10 points? But not only that, we have to talk about how the beast boss on Squigosaur is trash. So Masrog and the beast boss on Squigosaur went down in toughness and lost their wound, right? So these guys lost a little bit of wound, a little bit of toughness, so they got softer. But they also can't fight their way out of a paper bag or out of a tyrannid belly, for example, right? So a beast boss on Squigosaur just existing with 1 AP is outrageous. He's only at 2 damage, and then even then, he's only strength 6, I believe, as himself on top. So he's this big old mounted dude, but the weak profile into elite infantry and a weak profile into anything that's a vehicle or monster. Not to mention, because now a bunch of our units have 3 infantry 3+, and his attacks are only 3 damage. His only place he can kind of do damage is in Warhorde with Edwapa's Kill Chopper. Other than that, he is a soft body and he doesn't do anything. His data sheet abilities of I can heroic and +1 to charge. Yeah, the +1 to charge got countered by the paying for the pivot. So I'm not even happy, excited with that. And then I'm gonna heroic what? So I'm gonna softly get punched back if it's outside of the wall and lose wounds outside of it. I can't really fall back and charge anyway. So if I'm stuck here, then I'm just simply stuck here. It's only certain detachments. So that one data sheet ability is still only decent in like the hunt, for example, or maybe tactical brigade. So he's soft. He doesn't take enhancements well. He's not good on his own. But the only enhancement he takes well is Edwapa's Skill Chopper and maybe the Glory Hog. So he doesn't really do much then to hold a couple enhancements. Then he doesn't do damage on his own. He doesn't benefit the unit that he's a part of. He's a giant base that's alongside a bunch of other giant bases. So really he just increases the profile, so you're more likely to get shot. And then he can lose in precision matchups to just elite infantry fighting characters as well, even though he's supposedly this big mounted squig beast, and his beast himself is unreliable to vehicle and to monsters too, who also only has 2 AP. So what are we doing here? What are we doing here? This is one of those units that would need a +1 to hit at the very minimum, and he's still keeping that +1 to charge rolls. Okay, I'm not letting you get away with that. If anything, you're also giving me a reroll charge or something. I don't know. So it's like, you know, the beast boss on Squigosaur, just like the squigs, these dudes just all need AP. It's just silly, and that's a big factor. But also, our whole codex of being damaged too, including these kind of characters, is so underwhelming and not impressive. Not to mention that we don't get to reroll anything. So could you include rerolling ones to wound or reroll ones to hit if you don't want to give us +1 hit because you're scared our mounts are too good? There's other stuff that could be interesting to this unit. And then we move to Masrog. Masrog just needs to go back to Index Hammer in the case of, I argue directly straight up, he needs his 4-up Feel No Pain back. You have that silly or Necron character, the one that assets battle line. I'm having a brain fart now. You guys let me know in chat. Who has a 4-up Feel No Pain and has the aura ability to benefit battle line units, runs as an old lone op, so he can't be shot at certain times, and he's infantry, so he can move through terrain. And he's a 2-up armor save, and I believe he's like T8 or T9. That's so silly, and he's been that way since Index, and that's fine. Keep him. I'm not even saying get rid of that or nerf that guy to opinion, but I'm saying, why did you like so inconsistently focus down Maz so that he's less than a shadow of what he was, but then he could just look across the Great Green and he sees a little Necron infantry dude just mimicking his rules, just kind of pouncing in place like, haha, I also got a battle line buff. Like I said, we don't get an actual aura ability either. So his data sheet ability is, I can make you fight on death on a 4-up. Typically, people are going to shoot your pigs. They're so big, right? What are you doing? You gave him an ability to make people want to shoot you more, and then it's only on a 4-up, so he can't even reliably do it. You're going to fight with like one pig and maybe him at best. So his data sheet ability is completely underwhelming. Another unit, in my opinion, who liked that Necron character that I mentioned, could also benefit from maybe having the potential, if he dropped enough point cost and picked up an aura ability, to just run as an individual character. If you don't want to make him too tough because you can't have him a 4-up Feel No Pain, allow us to have a lone op that runs around like a missile, or that can at least benefit units with an aura ability. Not to mention his straight up melee potential. So he used to have the dev wounds on a 5+. So his mount and his actual killing data sheet ability that I'm still in favor of used to be more reliable in the case of, well, at least my mount can possibly get one of these hits off, and it's a dev wound to really help finish off this enemy problematic unit. But now it's only on a 6-up. So that's really, you're just wishing on a dream. We only get 6s and we only get hazards. It seems like as Orc players, we get 6s and we get hazards. That's all you want to give us, GW? Come on now. So Maz, in a very creative way, could just become of, well, if you don't want to lead characters, maybe he can be a leader by his just presence, since he's an epic character. But he needs a glow up. So if you don't want to revert to a 4-up Feel No Pain, Maz just needs to find a way. So you're paying for the bomb squigs on these pigs. You're supposedly anti-fighting vehicles and monsters, but none of those profiles match it. You're constantly getting shot, but you have just about no defensive abilities from getting shot. All they can do is increase your unit size. So, hey, thanks GW, I can make a 400-point unit if I put a character and these pigs there. And then, hey, it only allows 400 points of the enemy unit to shoot me on turn 1. Oops, better hope I go first. Is that a proper design? Now, you could argue that the Squighog Boyz themselves could, if you play for a big brick, take a huge decrease, right? But then you're just, again, paying for stats. So there is something in between of their points need to come down, but they also need the reliability of combat. So whether you're changing their data sheet to when they charge, they get an additional AP, or if they fight vehicles and monsters, give them additional AP. Maybe that's something the Squig boss, the Beast Boss and Squigosaur could give them. So that they could become more reliable. But again, the problem we're having here is also just making enough reliable contact from the unit, what it used to be when it was even diminished from all the shooting, from being able to be +1 to hit, gave it the ability to kind of continue momentum and have steam. So I'm still in favor of it. Needs like a +1 to hit. So whether it's Maz that's giving them something, or the additional AP, or is the Squig and Squigosaur giving them +1 to hit, whatever it gets, these guys need something that's not only fun and interesting to the Orc player, but it also needs to increase the reliability of this unit and counter its really, really obvious weaknesses, Squighog Boyz, which is we're only durable on the wall. So like when we have a 5-up on a 5-up, sure, then people have to dig us out with shooting. That's fine. I understand that. So I'm still love our Feel No Pain. But outside of that, For when you're paying for a giant brick, that thing's just getting shot up. And if you're paying for a small unit and it doesn't have a leader, you can't even kill a baby knight without dropping like 3 CP sometimes. You're averaging about 9 damage, 8 damage. It was about 8 damage. If it's an Imperial, like 9. If it's a chaos, like 10 for the baby knights. For a 4-man unit of Squighog Boyz without, a character leading it, and you used to drop a bunch of CP to actually reliably kill it. Not to mention, like I said, can't use your bomb squigs. So all in all 3 of these units just clearly aren't understood by GW and still, are looking like they're being perceived as an index hammer unit. And honestly, this is one of the units that I think should just really get focused on big time as orcs. And I think orc players should make it be known, because even though I am always positive and I say how these guys can be played, and I understand that people still get them to work, all in all, we're getting ripped off. And these guys only find a way because we make them find a way. So Squighog Boyz need some love. And that's all I got to say for this rant. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!